Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Instead of sharing my favorites and recommendations, in today's video I will be sharing the worst products from Chanel. These are products that I do not recommend. Either I don't think they're worth your money, or I just don't like them. Full stop. We all know that beauty is subjective. We are all free-thinking individuals with our own personal preferences, styles, opinions, etc. That should really be celebrated, so I hope nobody takes offense if you like any of the products that I'm going to talk about here today. This video is intended to be a helpful guide, that is all. Help you weed out the mediocre so you can get to the gold mine. You know, we like to keep things positive here in the pink sparkly bubble, so I just want to say that makeup is so much more fun and enjoyable when you're dealing with products that you love. And it loses its spark and its joy when you're playing around with products that are just kind of so-so. I think back to when I was a beauty stylist at Nordstrom. One of my favorite parts of that job was that I got to work with a team of some of the most incredible, talented makeup artists in all of Miami, probably all of Florida. And we would constantly bounce ideas off each other and talk about new products, new launches. And it was this perfect sounding board where I could hear so many different opinions and get so much feedback from other people. If I went down the line and I asked 20 different makeup artists their opinion on one product, I could easily get 20 different answers. I think sometimes we get tunnel vision, you know, we get so caught up in the products that we love that work best for us, our skin type, our skin tone, that we forget that those same products might be terrible on somebody else. And there are products that we hate that are incredible for somebody else. So I just want you to keep that in mind, that these are not the worst products in the world, and for some people they may be amazing, and I'm sure you can create beautiful looks with these products. But I just think there is something else that is better out there for you. My opinion is not the most important. Your opinion is the most important. The first Chanel product that I would definitely skip is the Le Palette Sourcil. This is the brow palette. This launched earlier this year along with new eyeliners, new mascaras. Loved the eyeliners. I skipped the mascara, but I picked up one of these brow palettes and I had such high hopes because I remember the old brow palette, which was terrible. So I figured they're bringing out a new version. It's going to be an upgrade. They took note of everything that was wrong with the first one and they're just going to have made it so much better. And I feel like they somehow made it worse. I don't know if that's possible. It definitely didn't get better. Maybe it's about the same. So the old palette came with two powders, two different colors, but they were so rock solid that even when you went in with a brush and you really scraped and scraped, it just didn't distribute a lot of color. You know, there are just so many better brow products out there. This new version is a brow wax and powder duo, which sounds so interesting, does it? I love the idea of a wax. In theory, it could have been amazing, but it's just not that great, especially for $50. I intended to purchase the medium. I accidentally purchased the light, so that's my fault, but the product itself wasn't very good. The wax was too creamy. It didn't hold brow hairs in place. It really didn't show up at all. It just kind of disappeared into nothing. And then the powder was identical to the previous powder. It was just too hard. It came with little baby tools, which were really cute. And of course, you could skip using those unless you were traveling. I tried using my own brow brushes, my own full-size brushes, and I could not get this to work. It was a real disaster. I ended up returning this product. I hated it so much. I thought about repurchasing the medium. I just couldn't justify it. I have so many brow products that I love that are fast, easy. They give me the brows that I want, and they're less than half the price. I don't think brow is a very strong category for Chanel. It never has been, and it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. I did hear from some people who said they liked that brow palette whenever it came out. I don't think I'm gonna get a lot of pushback for the second item. Here I have the eyeglasses. I was the fool who picked up both. So here I have the Solaire and the Lunaire Ombre Premier Gloss. These came out for cruise last year. I thought they were going to be amazing, so special. I was gonna wear them all the time and I was just gonna have glossy lids and it would be the most beautiful thing ever created by Chanel. Well, turns out they have been sitting in that drawer and I don't think I have so much as touched them once. I created an entire video dedicated to these eyeglasses, a little how-to to help inspire people to incorporate them into their makeup routine. And even still, I just am not in love with this product. I think I will have to move them to the top drawer and try to maybe use them as a little cheek highlight, shoulder highlight, because I think that's the best way to use them actually, is on the body, almost like that glitter body gel that they came out with, which is also on the list. You're better off using this as a glass skin style highlight than a true eye gloss, because it's just a disaster on the eyes. And I think some people didn't really struggle that much with it. Maybe it's the shape of my eyes, but I felt like if I got too close to the lash line, it smeared my mascara, it dissolved my eyeliner. There is no using eyeliner with this eye gloss. And it would also kind of smudge my eyeshadow. So you almost have to use this alone and nothing else. Maybe the eye gloss and mascara and that's it. But I just found that it was really creasy. There is a sweet spot right below the crease and right above the lash line that you could maybe dab a teeny tiny bit. But I think as you wear it throughout the day, you blink your eyes, it's not going to be noticeable. It certainly doesn't justify the price. I was shocked to see that they launched a new shade with this year's spring collection. And it was so beautiful too. It was kind of iridescent. I always see it on the Chanel website and I think, why? Why are you such a terrible product when you look so beautiful? So somebody's buying them. Hopefully they're enjoying them. They're not like me, making the purchase and then instantly regretting it. But I just cannot make these work for me, so I absolutely do not recommend them. Unless you are dedicated to creating an eye gloss look, dedicated to maybe glass skin, for photos maybe, you know, I think it's very editorial. Could I create a really pretty makeup look with a really glossy eye? Yeah, I probably could, and I could take one photo, or I could, you know, stand in an air conditioning room for 30 minutes and it would be lovely. But as soon as you try to wear this outside or, you know, wear it in real life, you know, the magic disappears. This next product is an example of good but not great. This is the eyeshadow primer. I happen to have this on hand and I like it. I don't really love it. I don't really use it, to be honest. It has a very strange texture, a really interesting consistency. It's kind of milky, creamy, thick, and then it's meant to dry down to almost a powdery finish. That way you can go on top with eyeshadow and it's going to give it something to hold on to. You know, it fills in all of the fine lines, gives a nice even base to the eyes, but then you're supposed to be able to blend eyeshadow on top. And I just don't think it really does much. There are other eyeshadow primers that I like more, but even still, I prefer just using a little dab of concealer. I've tried using this and look, you can see I applied more than you would for the lid, but as I'm rubbing it around, you know, just kind of smearing it, it's just kind of balled up. You know, it just kind of sits there and it doesn't really do anything. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see this. I tried to use this as a glitter glue, you know, something kind of wet and tacky to put on top of eyeshadow and then go on top with the pressed pigment or glitter, and that really didn't work. It just kind of smudged around, clumped everything together. I just looked it up. It's $32. It's meant to be lightweight, silky texture, improve the wear, and resist fading for long-lasting color. It feels silky. I mean, it doesn't feel terrible. It just doesn't do what it's supposed to do. So even if it's only $32, that is a complete waste. I think you're better off using one of the cream eyeshadows, the Ombre Premier creams, you know, in the little pot. You're better off using one of those as a base than you are using the eyeshadow base. I have one more eye product here to talk about. This is the Stilo Ombre A Contour Stick. And this is a great example of why it was important to preface this video, because I've already heard from so many of you guys who love the Stilo Ombre Contour Sticks. It's your go-to. So this is one of those items that it could go either way. Either you love it or you hate it. Maybe you're just kind of on the fence about it. It's not really a polarizing product. And I really do love this one in particular. This is the Nudie Clat. But my problem with it is that, gosh, it was rolled up so high. It gets really dry really quickly. And see, now it's barely showing up on me. You know, a little bit, but not much. There are other cream eyeshadow stick products that I prefer to the Stilo Ombre Contour Stick. Like the caviar sticks from Laura Mercier, I find them to be a lot creamier, softer. They don't dry out as quickly, really long wearing. And that was never my issue with this. I felt like this was really long wearing too, but it's just a little bit too tough. It's too hard for me to draw this directly on the lid. So I would use this as a brow highlight, inner corner highlight, and it was amazing. It's still a great product for that. But if you get any of the deeper colors and you go to rub on the lid, they're just really hard. It's gonna tug and it's not gonna be as gentle as I would like it to be. Bobbi Brown has a great eyeshadow stick that's really popular. I think you'll just have better luck with other sticks. It's not a terrible price point either. I think it's right on par with some of those other brands that I mentioned. They're just so dry. It's just too dry. Only two face products. That's a very strong category. Here's one that I picked up several years ago now, and I want to say this was supposed to be limited edition, but it is still available, so I just figured I'd talk about it in case anybody feels the itch to go ahead and purchase from Chanel.com. This is the Duo Bronze Lumiere palette. This is the Claire. It's meant to be a bronzer and highlighter. There is a darker shade, so that might be better. This just doesn't really do a lot for me. I make it work. You can see I do use this product. It's not something that I would recommend. The highlighter is really pretty, but of course it was a common complaint with a lot of people that this powder wasn't truly a bronzer. I heard from some people who said that's the perfect bronzer for me. I'm very fair. I can never find bronzers because they're all too dark. This works great. So I think for some people, this might be a perfect product. Whether you're using it as a bronzer or a powder, I just don't really love this compact. It's a little bit tougher to get out. I feel like when I go in with my brush, I have to really kind of push the brush down into the powder to pick up any product. And also it's hard to kind of swirl. You almost have to use this as one product and just go around and maybe create a luminous powder. To pick up the highlight, it's not so bad because you know you can go in with your fingers and just kind of dab where you want to, or a smaller highlighting brush. But with this powder, whether you're using it to set your face or using it as a bronzer, you're going to want to go in with a larger brush, and you always kind of pick up some of the highlight. So it's just not really convenient. This isn't something that I ever take with me traveling. I would rather take two separate products, one giant powder, one giant highlight, than take this because it's just frustrating to use. And it was so beautiful too with the little CC emblem embossed on top. I almost wish that I had just held on to this and kept it as a collector's item. I really appreciated the fact that they kept it in the all black compact as well. Sort of unfortunate. I'm sure some people really like this. I do not. I wish I hadn't wasted my money, or if I had, I just had kept it really pretty and pristine and maybe just used it as a prop for photos. That's more valuable to me than this as a powder highlight. Here's another product that might ruffle a few feathers, but just hear me out. This is the palette Essentielle. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. I love the concept, the idea behind it, but it could be improved drastically. As it is, as it stands, it's not something that I would purchase, and I wouldn't really feel comfortable recommending this. I don't know who's purchasing this. I know I've heard from a lot of you guys who say that you have this and you think it's amazing, and I'm wondering how you came to purchase it. Is it something that you discovered online, so you added to cart out of curiosity? Because in my experience working at the counter, nobody touches it. It doesn't lend itself well to being tested. You know, the little testers get really gunky and they look disgusting really quickly because you put your fingers in it. You know, people are smearing it on their hands and then it just becomes really messy. You know, it's a little trio of cream products. So you can only imagine what this looks like at Chanel counters. It's generally not the prettiest item on display, so I think that turns a lot of people off. I don't like the colors that they chose, and you can't change them around. So here I'm looking at the Chanel website. It looks like the shade 150, the beige Claire, which would be the shade that I would get, is sold out. The blush is really pretty. The highlight's pretty. The concealer is too dark for my under eye. I could maybe use it on the face. I think this is a great product for anybody who travels a lot or if you're into very minimal makeup. So the person who loves to use water fresh tint on a daily basis, this might be for that person. You know, somebody who's just using their fingers, they're not pulling out a ton of brushes, and they want fast, easy, multi-use. I really don't like the range. So the 150 is sold out. Let's move to the next one. Let's take a look at the 160 beige medium. I don't think this medium palette is gonna work for a lot of skin tones. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you look at this and this is perfect for you, feel free to let me know, comment below if you want to. I just feel like if you have a medium skin tone, that concealer probably isn't gonna work. That's not going to be the best highlighter shade for you. Maybe the blush works, but you're paying $60 for the trio. You know, all three have to work really nicely for it to work, for it to be worth it. And then we have some special ones. There's the caramel, or one of these came out for summer and it had this bright orange and then the gold, and it was almost more of a cream bronzer, but the bronzer really isn't dark enough. I don't know, the 185 caramel is strange. The beige intense is sort of strange. So it's not like the palette is bad, it's just the three colors that they chose don't make a lot of sense. There are two lipstick formulas on my list, the Rouge Allure Liquid Powder and the Rouge Cocoa Lip Blush. They're both kind of similar in their texture. It's a little bit strange, and I remember when the Rouge Allure Liquid Powders came out because I believe they launched at the same time as the Velvet Extreme lipsticks. I picked up a couple shades. I loved the Velvet Extreme that I got. I loved it so much that it was my favorite lipstick shade, and I didn't touch it. And then a year later, I went to put on that lipstick and it was covered in mold. I kid you not. So whenever people tell me that they have a favorite product and they never use it, I tell them, please use it. Use the products that you love. Don't let them go to waste. Don't make my mistake and save that special lipstick that's your favorite shade ever created, only to find a year later that it is covered in mold. I ended up throwing it away. In fact, I got rid of a lot of lipsticks and glosses. I did a whole declutter. This was a couple months ago. I need to go through and do a second declutter. That's a video that I will work on soon. But I got rid of my Rouge Allure Liquid Powder, and when it first launched, I thought it was really interesting. You know, it's kind of weird. You could also use it as a cheek, just like the lip blush, because it was almost this waxy, powdery texture, meant to look matte, almost like a soft, airbrushed lip. It's not my favorite thing in the world, and the same with the lip blush. I don't hear a lot of people rant and rave about them. It was a really interesting concept when they launched. You know, a lip that you could use as a cheek, but of course with most lipsticks you can also use them as a cream cheek. The shade range was never great, and I don't like the idea of putting something on your face and your lip. I think with the Rouge Allure Liquid Powder, at least you could kind of squeeze it on your finger and then tap on your cheek. But with the lip blush, I mean, are you using that applicator? Are you applying it to your face and then dipping it back in and then going on your lips? You know, it's just a faulty product. I don't love it. I don't love the texture. I don't really love the way it looks. I just think there are so many better products. You know, there are beautiful lipsticks that are just lipsticks, beautiful blushes that are just blushes. You don't necessarily have to mix everything together to make it multi-use. This is one of those cases that I think you are truly better off just purchasing two separate products. There's only one thing left on my list. Everything else is pretty good. You know, even if it's not the best thing in the world, like my number one preference, it's not something that I wouldn't recommend. You know, it's just not something that I'm going to purchase myself. And I know I talked about the body glitter, but truly I think that's kind of a fun product. It's really sticky and tacky if you haven't had a chance to feel it. But it's kind of fun, body glitter from Chanel. If you want to purchase it, purchase it. It's body glitter, you know, whatever. It's not the best product in the world, but is it the worst thing in the world? No, and the people who are purchasing it are going to have a lot of fun with it. Here's something that I wanted to talk about in case you haven't had a chance to see this in person, because they are very rarely found at counters, and it's the Travel Makeup Palette. It's not something that I would recommend. It's very delicate. All you have to do is look at it funny and it will break in half. But the products inside just aren't stellar. You would think that it would be easy to just create these mini versions of excellent Chanel products and wrap it up in this beautiful travel palette and it will be the best thing created. And the price at $95, I mean, this has got to be tempting to some people. It would be incredibly tempting to me if I hadn't seen them so many times in person. It's very underwhelming. I don't like the colors that they chose. The eyeshadows, the lips, the blush, everything about it just looks very dated. It's kind of old school. There's nothing cool about it. It's not new, fresh. It's just not really in style. And I think if they came out with a travel palette that had really amazing pans of some of their best products, it could be the most incredible thing ever. Maybe one day that will happen, but I think they've kind of been stuck in a rut with this particular product. Before they had this Harmony de Camellias, they had another version which looked basically identical but just different colors inside. So anytime they've updated it, they've kept it basically the same. They just change out a few of the colors, but they still don't upgrade this palette. You know, it's just more of the same. It really doesn't do anything for me at all. I think they usually come out with palettes like this around the holidays. And that completes my list for the day. I do have a running list on my phone of Luxury Fails 2020 all brands, but it's not very long, so I'll probably hold on to it, see if it gets a little bit longer, and then maybe do a video on that in the future, depending on the feedback I get from this video. If you guys prefer me to just keep it positive and talk about the things that I love, I'm happy to do that. I generally only purchase products that I think I'm going to love or know I'm going to love. So it kind of sets me up for success. I think that's how most people shop. But if you like this style of video, I'm happy to inform you anytime I get a nice solid list of not so favorites, because I know that can be really helpful as well. And that completes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Leave me your comments, questions down below. I love hearing from you guys. Instead of linking the products mentioned, I'll link the product that I prefer instead, as well as everything that I have today on my face down in the description box for your convenience. And for more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell.